Hi, vintage guitar people. Welcome to Have Guitar Will Travel, presented by Vintage Guitar Magazine. With your host, me, James Patrick Regan, otherwise known as Jimmy from the Deadlies. And today I'm speaking with Jefferson Hart, guitarist with Secret Monkey Weekend from North Carolina. In our conversation, Jefferson tells us about his band, Secret Monkey Weekend, which is a family band with his two stepdaughters, which have just released their second album, Lemon Drop Hammer, produced by Don Dixon and with some help from Peter Holsapple. Jefferson talks about his gear, guitars, and amps, and pedals, and we talk about amp builders in the North Carolina area. Jefferson describes growing up in North Carolina, watching Porter Wagoner and the Wilburn Brothers on TV. Jefferson discusses how the band came together, meeting the kids first as their instructor, and eventually meeting and falling in love with their widowed mother. And we talk about the venues they play and a PBS documentary about the band. Jefferson talks about the job he retired from that allows him to do this project with his daughters. Finally, Jefferson describes the music scene in North Carolina. You can find out more about Secret Monkey Weekend at their website, secretmonkeyweekend.com, and they're very active on the socials. Please subscribe, like, comment, share, and most of all, review this podcast. I'd really appreciate it. And please support Vintage Guitar Magazine and all the wonderful things they do for us guitar players, because they do so many wonderful things for us guitar players. Here's Jefferson. Hey, Jefferson. Are you there?
Hey there.
How are you? Are you in North Carolina right now?
Yeah. Where are you?
I'm in Northern California.
Okay.
Other side of the country.
Where the girls are warm. Isn't that what Steve Miller sang?
I believe so, but they could be warm, I guess. I'm going to guess that they're also warm there. So, speaking of girls, how old are the girls in your band?
Our drummer, Lila, is 17
Okay.
And a half, I guess she likes to say. And Ella is 22
Okay.
and a half. So, yeah, they've both been in this band since they were 8 and 13.
Oh, wow. Jeez. And I assume you guys have been playing around.
We actually started playing late in 2016, but just at like a couple of parties. But the next year, we actually started playing venues, like actual bars, and we had to make sure they would allow an 8 or 9 year old in. And we've been mostly lucky. There's only been one venue in 9 years that would not have underage kids.
Oh, really?
But both parents were there, mother doing merch and me on stage. So.
Sure. Yeah, and like I can only I have kids, and I can only imagine what it's like working with your kids. How is that for you?
Oh wow, they're such good kids. I mean, we all still have our own identities and emotional and intellectual makeups, but like sometimes really early, Lila did not like sound checks. And just hated to repeat things.
Oh, yeah.
And I think she's grown and matured since that. Nobody seems to have ever had stage fright, to my knowledge. Ella, the bass player, seems to be the most grounded of all of us, very centered. So they've been, we don't really act like it's a father-daughter relationship when we're playing.
Yeah.
We try to have equal say in things, and maybe at rehearsal things might come out a little more like father and daughter, but for the most part they know what they're doing, and there's not a lot I can tell them.
Yeah Well, and you guys all sound like great musicians, so that's fantastic. I see that you have that Fender behind you, and is that a Boogie below it?
Which one?
The I see a Fender amp.
Yeah. That's believe it or not, it's a recent acquisition. It's a Tone Master Deluxe Reverb, and I'm a believer. I mean, these things sound amazing. I'm kind of looking over my camera to see what you're looking at, but and then that's a Boogie California Tweed head, which California Tweed's kind of been my go-to for live gigs the last year. I've got a what we call here in this state Carolina Blue combo. And I just keep it in a road case, and that's what I tend to play live. But I've actually thought about maybe bringing that Tone Master out just to lighten my load a little bit. I don't know.
Sure.
We'll see.
And do you are you familiar with the amp makers there in North Carolina, like Swart and in North Carolina?
Yeah, car. Oh my gosh, yeah, I would love a car, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've yet to visit their factory, but I know Steve. Steve actually were in a band that never made it out of the basement about 25 years ago. Little did I know that he was going to be this renowned amp maker. Yeah, that's wild.
How about Swart, Michael Swart?
No, that's Wilmington, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing some of his in some stores, maybe 20, 15 years ago. But no, haven't had the pleasure of meeting him. Or I think I have played through some of his amps in the stores, and of course they were wonderful.
Yeah. I think Blockhead also, or Three Monkeys. They're in that.
Yeah, that's
area.
right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Did you grew up in North Carolina?
Yeah, I did. I was born in Raleigh. My first 3 years, I sort of lived south of Raleigh in another county, but then I've been in Raleigh from 1965 until about 2000. And ever since 2000, I've been either here in Durham or Carrboro, which is like the sister city of Chapel Hill.
Okay. All right. And how do you feel about Buck Owens?
Oh, Buck. Oh, do you see that guitar back there behind me?
I do see that guitar back there.
Love Buck. And it's only been in recent years that I realized what a fine guitarist he was.
Sure,
I mean, I knew about the songs he wrote, and in the age of YouTube, you can go back and see his old TV shows. But oh my gosh, yeah, fine guitarist, and he had the wisdom to bring Don Rich on board, which was, what can you say? Batting 1,000 there.
What kind of music were you listening to when you were growing up?
We had a really good AM station called WKIX, and it played the top 40, but on the weekends, they kind of played a little bit of everything. I mean, we would hear soul, we might hear the Beach Boys, we might hear the Beau Brummels, and then on the weekend, they would play what they call beach music in this part of the U.S. And basically, it was just that R&B dance music,
Yeah.
So yeah, we heard a lot of everything, and of course, if a country tune made the top 40, we'd hear it too. There was a guy in the early 70s or late 60s named Freddie Hart, I think.
Sure, of course.
And I thought, my gosh, so we were getting a big wide variety of music. Plus, there were all those country music TV shows that came on Saturdays afternoon and early evening when I was growing up. So I got a really good input of a wide variety of music.
Yeah, the TV shows that you mentioned, what shows were those?
The Wilburn Brothers, Porter Wagoner.
Yeah.
And then, of course, later on, Hee Haw. But I think Hee Haw, to me, was more comedy. They only had like maybe 2 musical numbers, but, the Wilburn Brothers and Porter Wagoner was music all the way through, pretty much.
Yeah. That's great that you had the opportunity to see those things.
Oh, yeah. And there was a show called Arthur Smith. Arthur Smith was a very influential guitarist to a lot of people.
Yeah.
I think even Paul McCartney mentioned one of the first songs he learned to play was Guitar Boogie.
Wow.
And he had a syndicated TV show that was mostly country, a little gospel.
Right on. And did you play guitar in high school and all?
I did not get a guitar until my final semester of high school.
Okay.
I was at a friend's house, and he had a Stella, which I have around here somewhere.
Did really?
He
right on.
Was going to throw it away. It was actually maybe even in the trash can. And I said, why are you doing this? He said, I can't play. I said, well, will you give it to me for free?
Yeah.
He did. And that's what I learned on. And I got calluses right away. The action was not very good. But, once I could master that and I was self-taught, I moved on to, gosh, I can't remember what the next one was. I think it was a Cayman, which was sort of a sideline of Ovation.
Yep.
They made a guitar. And then I think eventually after that, I ended up with a Takamine, maybe.
Okay.
And a Yamaha, yeah.
And did you go to college?
Yeah, I did. I went to NC State, which was kind of the hometown college, and I stayed at home, tried to save a little money.
Yeah.
And the money that I saved went to LPs and later CDs. CDs didn't become the norm until right after I graduated. So,
sure.
yeah, so totally used my savings, not on clothes, but on records. So,
what was the impetus for starting the band?
The family band.
Yeah.
Because I've probably had like 60 bands prior to this. But yeah, this family band. I married a widow.
Okay.
The husband of Laura's first husband was a guy named Matt Brown, wonderful drummer. He played with John Howie Jr. in the Rosewood Bluff. He played in my Kinks band. I had a Kinks band at the time called the Kinksmen. He played duos with me. And he also later played in my original band. So I was already friends with him. And after he died tragically 13 years ago of a heart attack when he was 42.
Yeah.
So about a year later, Laura was looking to get Ella, the oldest girl, guitar lessons, and somebody recommended me. So I got to know them, and I fell in love with the kids right away.
Yeah.
And then over, a couple of years, a romance blossomed. And so here I am with these two kids, one that's just learned guitar, but she decided she wanted to play bass, which was her dad's other instrument.
Okay.
And because the 7-year-old at the time wanted to learn drums, which was her dad's main instrument.
Yeah.
Lo and behold, we actually had, a rock trio in the making, even though it was just for fun. It was mainly to get Lila to learn how to play drums, give Ella bass practice. And, we had a lot of fun. We played Ramones, Queen, maybe a little Beach Boys, a little George Jones. And eventually we started writing songs the next year. So that's kind of how the band came about. And it was not, some forced band like, I'm going to have these kids as my band. It's like, no, just they wanted to make music. So I tried to find a way to make it happen.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's a PBS documentary that tracks the whole beginning of the band. I don't know if you've seen that yet. But
no, I haven't seen that.
Yeah. If you go to secretmonkeyweekend.com, I believe it's the very first video in our EPK.
Okay.
And PBS North Carolina made it, and it's about 15 minutes. And last year, Miracle of Miracles, it actually was awarded an Emmy.
Wow.
Yeah. So people liked it, and our peers liked it, which was really gratifying.
Of course. Did that be, it winning an Emmy and being on PBS, did people start to seek you out? Like, when I say people, I mean like management and, venues, festivals, and talent buyers?
We've had venues, yeah. No management has emerged at this point, although I would love to focus on the music and maybe have someone else handle the business side. It would certainly free me up to do more musically. But, we've had, we get emails frequently from people who find us that way. And, it's kind of nice to know it reached some people.
Sure. And how far has that reach been? Like, you guys play outside of North Carolina? Yeah,
we've played as far as Philadelphia area, Swarthmore a couple of times, played Baltimore a couple of times, DC once, Richmond maybe 2 or 3 times. We've been to it seems like we're going north and south. We're trying to break west and east, but we have our first show at the coast of North Carolina with Southern Culture on the Skids.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, this will be about our 4th or 5th show with them. We played with them in South Carolina before.
That's a great matchup.
Oh, yeah. We have a garage sound, I think, live that really meshes well with them.
Yeah.
We played in Athens with the Vanessa from Pylon. She's reformed a band, and it's called Pylon Reenactment Society. We played down there with her. We played Atlanta with a friend's band, and we're trying to get back down. I think we've been to Athens twice now, and we hope to get down there for a festival. We haven't really heard whether we made it yet or not. But, we're trying to play out of town a lot more. Charlotte, Winston-Salem is like our home away from home.
Yeah.
We're playing there this week, actually.
Oh, right on. Right on.
Yeah. So yeah, we actually last 2 years I think we played away from home more than we did at home.
Yeah. Are there a lot of festivals in your area? And then
yeah, there's one. The Eno River has a festival. There's a grassroots festival called Shikori by the band Dawn of the Buffalo puts it on.
Okay.
There's just several different ones.
Right on. That's great. How'd you guys get hooked up with Don Dixon?
Don Dixon started writing songs with a friend of mine.
Uh-huh.
And my friend's name is John Baer. And in fact, John actually approached me to co-write with him a bunch of songs.
Uh-huh.
And I was just so busy trying to put out my last solo album that I said, man, I just don't think I can do it. I think I bit off more than I can chew. So he decided to call Don Dixon. And Don said, yeah. So Don and he co-wrote some songs that became an album. The brunette with fair-skinned brunette with the porcelain shine.
Wow.
And Lassie James is the name of the album. Okay. Lassie James. And so when they decided to do a book launch, John asked me what I like to play, and Dixon's going to play too. That's how we met Don.
Okay.
And this was like, oh gosh, 8 years ago. And Don became friends over social media. I had been to see him play as far back as when I was 18 in Raleigh and Chapel Hill when he was in a band called Arrogance, which was like the biggest deal in our state for a long time.
Okay. And
we thought when it's time to start recording, he's the first guy I thought of. And he went, yeah, let's do it. And he was so easy to work with. He's just one of the nicest guys in the music business, I think.
Yeah. And how did Peter Holsapple come into the
Okay, now Peter was in a band with Ella and Lila's birth dad.
Okay.
It was like a band for children, like children's songs.
Yeah.
And Peter would wear a wizard outfit with it was like a wizard hat or something. And Ella and Lila's dad would be a robot. He was the robot drummer. So that's how they met Peter, but I knew of Peter just because of the DBs. They were like my favorite band in college.
Yeah.
Their first 2 albums came out when I was in college. Their first 3, actually. And over time, when he moved here after Katrina, he actually didn't live very far from me, so I got in touch with him, and we kind of became friends. I used to ask him about pedal boards and, what guitar is he using, and he was very gracious and tolerating my question.
So we discussed the amps that you're using. What are you using for guitars? What's your guitar collection look like?
Oh boy. Okay. So behind me, for some reason, last week I decided to get as many tellies as I could on the wall. So you see the Buck Owens, and then you see the one closest to my ear is a Squire that I kind of was trying to make look like a Syd Barrett's Esquire.
Okay.
Except mine had 2 pickups. I didn't see that there were any Squires at the time. So anyway, that's sort of my tribute to Syd Barrett. And then there's the Buck Owens. The one next to that is my George Harrison signature Rosewood.
Yeah.
And it's, all rosewood, but it is chambered to make it a little lighter.
Yeah.
And I think next to that is what they call a JV Telecaster. It's made in Japan.
Uh-huh.
I think it kind of has similar electronics to a Baja.
Yeah.
And next to that is a U.S.-made Telecaster. Next, you can't see it in the other picture, is a Baja. I've got a pink Strat, U.S. Strat.
Uh-huh.
I've got I think it's called, I want to say Road Warrior, but that's not really what it is. It was some kind of
Road Worn
Telecaster with a rosewood neck.
Yeah.
And then I've got a U.S., I think, Player or U.S. Performer with a humbucker in the neck back there. Yeah. So those are most of my Telecasters, although I've got maybe 3 or 4 in the other room. There's a Gretsch over my shoulder.
Yeah, I see the Gretsch.
That's the most recent Nashville.
Okay.
I had a 68. I actually forgot about that when I was making my little list. I had a 68 Nashville, which I loved for a long time. And I think back in the days when they made you pay your car insurance all at once, I had no choice but to sell something of value, and I lost that because of car insurance. And then another one, I think I sold a 12-string Rickenbacker. It was blue with binding, 3 pickups. I think it was a 370 12. Car insurance, man. I just. And then when the age of the internet came around, I realized that you can actually pay month by month, and it has helped my budget tremendously.
And you mentioned pedals a little while ago, but what's your pedal rig look like?
Oh my gosh, I'm at the point now where I've got so many pedals. I have like a big pedal board for shows, a medium, and a small.
Okay.
So my feet are resting on one of the pedal boards right now. You can't see it, but I think the most pedals I've ever had on a board is maybe 12. It all depends on what your power source is. I try to use that instead of batteries.
Sure.
But then my medium pedal board has almost the same effects, but maybe by a different pedal maker. And then the third one is just one that I can just have to get in and get out on stage. At least I have a boost, some saturation, a tuner, and probably some tremolo. So I have to have those. Otherwise, I can make it. Oh, I do love having a wah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I do have a couple of those mini. Now, I've got one here I can show you.
Yep.
This one.
The Dunlop.
Crybaby.
Yeah. Yeah, those are great. When you do play live, which amp are you using right now?
The amp I'm using live?
Yeah.
California Tweed for the most part. I will say, if I don't feel like picking up the amp case with the wheels, or sometimes I have to have the kids help me load that down the steps because it's kind of heavy. I'll grab that Supro. I have a Supro Black Magic.
Yeah.
And that's a really sweet amp. In fact, Peter Holsapple borrowed it for maybe the last 2 or 3 DB shows.
Okay.
They were touring on their album reissue of Repercussion, and Peter borrowed it. And I actually went to one of the shows and made sure that I took a video of the song Amplifier while he was playing my amp. So I've got that for posterity.
Yeah. Very cool. And what's Ella using for as far as basses and amps for her?
Ella uses a Hart key head. I don't know. I'm looking. It might be over my shoulder. I can't remember the name. It looks like a Hart key.
Oh.
TX 3000. And or maybe 300. What is it? Oh, it's 300. Yeah, it's 300 amps, not 3,000.
And
a 15-inch speaker in a Hart key cab. So, and she tends to play. She's got a Squier P bass that has. You remember those stickers called Wacky Packs?
Sure. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, those goofy stickers. Her dad had a bass like that, and he stuck them all over.
Yeah.
She plays that a lot. She's also has a black jazz bass that belonged to her dad.
Oh, right on.
She learned to play on my Hofner. I had a Hofner Beetle bass. I eventually sold it, but she learned on that because it was light.
Yeah.
And then there's also a prototype Waterstone bass. It's black. And one of the guys at Waterstone designed it as a prototype Matt Brown signature, and she plays that a lot too.
Oh, wow.
So she has 3 basses that all have a lot to do with her dad.
Yeah.
His second instrument was bass, but he was quite good at it too.
Sure. And you guys rehearse right there in that room?
Yeah, well, yeah, for the most part. What we do, this has always been the music room, even when Matt was alive.
Okay.
But behind me, can even see this big black, behind the Gretsch. That's the drum room. It's not no lights in there right now, but that's the drum room. So we decided to put the drums in another room, and that sort of helps keep the volume down, and it also makes it when we record demos, the drums are a little bit away from everything else.
Yeah.
So yeah, we took over the family dining room to turn it into a drum room, which goes to show you how tolerant my wife is, but how supportive she is too.
Did the neighbors complain at all?
No, we haven't had any complaints.
Very good.
I mean, if they complain, they haven't told us.
Is this supporting yourself, or do you have a day job as well?
I'm in a unique situation of having been retired since age 50.
Wow.
So I've been retired almost 13 years. I worked for the state of North Carolina. The last 13 or so, I worked for the University of North Carolina system.
Uh-huh.
And I just thought because I was already a guitar teacher, I could probably just make up the difference.
Yeah.
Getting that early retirement. And that's what I did for a good while. And
Good
then,
for you.
yeah. And then that, of course, that made it possible for me to get to know Ella. Everything kind of worked out.
Yeah.
In an
organically.
Organically, but very strange way. And that's kind of how I got to this situation, I think.
Yeah. Are there a lot of original bands in North Carolina?
A lot of cool bands?
Original bands.
Oh, yeah. Trying to think. We're playing with a band this weekend called The Trick Threat. Mm-hmm. They're out of just outside of Charlotte. And they just have this nice sort of jangle, but with very beautiful harmonies. To me, it's almost like if REM had a female singer who sang like, I don't know, Emmylou Harris or something. Mm-hmm. And we've been playing a lot with a band called the Mad Starlings, which is another family band. There's three brothers. And they, the whole band is pretty wonderful, but the guitar player is such a sight to see. He can just, I don't know, I just love his guitar work. So, when you're the only guitar player in a band and you're noticed for making everything work, that's a big deal because, I mean, I know what it's like to try to carry the load as the only guitar player. And that's kind of what I like about them. And then, of course, Southern Culture on the Skids, which we played a lot with. Yeah. We played a lot with a band called It's Snakes out of Charlotte. And their lead singer is Hope Nichols from Fetchin' Bones.
Okay.
And her husband, who was also in Fetchin' Bones, Aaron Pitkin, is in that band. So we've done a lot of shows and plan to do some more with them this summer. So, North Carolina's just bursting with good music. And, a lot of it, so much of it is under the radar. A lot of these bands you just don't read about. I guess because there's just so many.
Yeah.
But because we're out playing shows, we get to see a lot of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And are most of the shows you play with multiple bands?
At most shows?
Yeah.
Yeah. I prefer 2-band bills because it means we get to play longer. I like to actually break a sweat. Yeah. But a lot of shows lately it seems to be 3-band shows, which I don't think that was the case back in the old days. But I think venues are trying to get followings from 3 bands just so they can have a better crowd. And I think that's the economics of it now.
Sure, yeah, I can see that. And are you playing mostly bars, or are you playing like are they tap rooms or what?
Yeah, we've done a little bit of both. I would say it's about 50-50. A lot of the places we play actually do brew their own beer. So
yeah, very good.
I'm not much of a beer guy. I kind of like bourbon and rye and scotch.
Sure.
But I can't drink much of that and perform, so I have to.
Yes, that's it's a limiting factor.
One beer will get me through a whole gig, pretty much.
Besides the music stuff, what else do you do for fun?
The last few years, I've kind of gotten into landscaping a little bit.
Oh, right on.
Not like for a business, but I just took a ridiculously overgrown backyard and I've got some grass to grow. I don't use, pesticides and all that stuff. It's just naturally. And I just, I wanted to give my dogs a nice place to play without, bringing in pine cones and pine straw all the time.
Yeah.
And, I've got these 2 massive dogs. They're Pyrenees. They're
right on. I have a
brothers and sisters. Yeah. Oh, they're lovable and big. And, one looks like a polar bear and the other one looks like a St. Bernard. And I just, I'm just trying to give them a better life. And it's fun to kind of, help their play space more lovable, playful.
Yeah. Well, Jefferson, it's been great talking to you. And
you too.
I appreciate your time.
You too, likewise.
I hope we run into each other in person at some point.
Yeah, where are you located?
In Northern California.
Okay. Oh, we've got to get out there. We've got to play.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll look you up.
There's a festival, Bottle Rock Festival here, and that'll be a perfect one for you guys.
Give them our name.
If I had the ability, I would. Very well. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
See ya. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Have Guitar Will Travel. You can catch up on all the things I'm doing at thedeadlies.com. And I'm on all the social media platforms as well. And please support Vintage Guitar and all the wonderful things they do, because they do many, many wonderful things for us guitar players. Thanks. Please subscribe. Please tell a friend. And I'll see you guys next week. Bye, guys.